I'd like to welcome on stage three entrepreneurs, Rakshay Dhariwal, the founder and CEO of Passcode Spirits, Passcode Hospitality, who will be moderating this fireside chat. I think we all prefer a seaside chat, I think, in Goa. Hansel Vaz, whom we just saw in Technicolor, not Hansel. Mrinal Manu of Blue Ocean Beverages, and Vidur Gupta of Stranger and Sons, a co-founder. Welcome you all on stage, and thank you all for your patience. We have this last session of the day, and then we'll call it a day.
So this is the last one for the evening. I thank you all for being patient and sitting through this. It's been a long day, but a brilliant one. So thank you to PDA, to Taliho, to all the sponsors involved, and thanks HP for that nice informative chat on labels. What our talk is about today is it's a fireside round. So even if we're in the middle of a conversation, I would encourage you guys to pick up your hands and jump on in and ask questions. It'll help me out and save me from having to do my job here. So just introducing the chat, we're talking about an asset-light approach to making a spirit. What does that mean? Starting a distillery is expensive. At the end of the day, if you start a distillery or if you buy an existing one, you're looking at a minimum of 10 crores with the land, with the permissions, with the equipment, with the clearances, with the staff to go to, get that entire distillery put together. So what we're discussing today is a pros versus cons of the difference between an asset-light approach, where you do tie up with an existing distillery and have them produce for you, or buying one or setting one up from scratch. So there are arguments to and from the two different approaches. What we'd like to do is discuss them today. With me are two of my very good friends. We've got Mrinal Manu, who before this was, before he came back to take over his family business, which is Blue Ocean Beverages. He was in Dubai. He was working on branding, marketing, and events. And after coming back, he's decided to expand the company's portfolio, and he's the co-founder of Mr. Jerry's, which are cocktails in a can, some amazing cocktails. My personal favorite is the Negroni. With me, we also have Vidur Gupta, co-founder of Third Eye Distillery, which has brands like Stranger and Sons, Four Pillars. They've done a collab with that. They've got Trading Tides and Spice Root. And they also have Perry Road, Peru, which is their tie-up with the Bombay Canteen. So starting off right now, they're on two different spectrums of the scale. Mrinal has come back and inherited, a big production facility, whereas Vidur started it, I think, 4 years ago and 4 or 5 years ago, and started off as a tie-up, which, has evolved since then. So just beginning our fireside chat for this questions for Vidur. Not being from the industry per se, you guys, before launching Stranger and Sons, did you consider setting up a distillery of your own, or did you always think an easier route to market was to tie up with an existing player?
That's a good question. I've been part of the food production industry, I think, since I started my career. So I've seen it in various countries and seen it sort of export and grow. And the idea for us was always, at least for me, the way I like to run the last two companies that I have run, is to always have control over my manufacturing. The way I got that can come in various ways, but we from the very get-go owned our machines, QC processes, and people. We only really wanted space.
And the licenses, I'm sure.
Well, initially licenses, and now that's also become sort of easier as scale grew. But obviously, as anybody starting from scratch, you have a lot of reservations and a lot of cold feet. You would know You're in a similar place right now and have been many times. So you're second guessing yourself. But the idea was that we always wanted control of our manufacturing. Even when I ran my food company before this, we wanted control of the manufacturing. If we get some manufacturing support, that's amazing. But the first and foremost was control. So yeah, initially though, and till now, all the machinery, all the QC, all the get-go, all the people, and now obviously to a larger extent, even the license is all ours. We're just really looking for space, and hopefully in the future that will go away as well.
Lovely. Mrinal, do you find it easier producing for other brands where you don't have the stresses and complications involved with marketing, branding, and all that, and you can just focus on the distillation or the manufacturing process?
I wouldn't say it's easier per se. Also, I wouldn't say that that is always the best thing to do. You always want to have your own brands. You're passionate about doing things in the industry, coming up with creative products. But if a great brand is coming to you and being bottled at your facility, and you connect and understand the concept and feel that you're on the same page, then I guess it makes a lot of sense to tie up with them and work with them and see them bring these brands into the market, make it possible for them to, or make it easier for them, not just possible, they would have figured it out some way, but make it easier by giving them all the support you can give. At the same time, you want to do your own things also, or at least I do, that's how I see it. So,
Awesome. And what is your screening process? How do you decide which brands you want to take on and which brands you'd rather not?
I would say the first thing is compatibility with the person, right? Especially when you're looking at new startup brands, you're talking to one person who's coming with a concept, who's got an idea, who's got a product, got passion for that product. You feel that it works, you feel the vibe is the same, you're on the same page, things make sense, go ahead. Otherwise, that would be the step one. Obviously, there are other things like you're already contract bottling for a lot of people. There should not be conflict of interest. If there is, what are the contracts you have in place? You cannot violate a contract. You never want to do that. That comes in as a secondary stage, because if you're not compatible, even if it's not a contractual problem, you don't want to get into it because it's going to end up in murky bad water. So yeah, the two main things I would say, one is if you understand and you find the person is passionate about the product, they know what they're talking about, it makes sense to you, you understand where they're coming from, there is an understanding mutually, then you think about the next step, are there conflict of interest, I have got other contracts in place, will it work, will it not work, and then go ahead.
Got it. Vidur, earlier you just had Stranger and Sons. Today you've got a fleet of different spirits in the pipelines. At what stage do you decide for, is there a X, Y, Z number of cases that you should hit before you think, okay, I should go in for my own facility? Or do you always think the best route is to just have your own facility?
I wish I could tell you that there was some magic formula where brands decide that at this tipping point, we're going to start making asset-heavy investments. I think we've seen successful brands across the world not own a single distillery and become global brands. We've seen small brands that have not been able to grow with having high assets. So I think this is a very personal business side question. What works for you? What works for your ethos? What works for your product? And then you take a call. In Scotland, you'll see some distilleries that are doing like 1,000 cases a month and still own their own distillery. You'll have behemoth brands that never own a distillery. So it really is how you toe the line for yourself. I can't tell you that, no, at 100,000 cases for each brand, we are now going to build machines. I think that's a question that each company has to look introspectively and ask themselves.
Got it. Mrinal, what are some of the risks for producing for external parties? I.e., how much control do you give, and what if something happens that you did not foresee? How are the liabilities dealt with?
I mean, obviously there is the very first thing that comes to mind are contracts. You always have very clear, concise contracts that are agreed on, and then I mean, once it's in black and white, you know where you've drawn the lines for both parties. Of course, there are other risks that come with it because the license is yours and you're manufacturing with somebody else. What if, there is some kind of a breach of legal responsibilities? So yes, normally there are deposits and things like that, which kind of covers it. It doesn't really protect you. You're finally going to go back to a contract, but you do it so that you emphasize the fact that how serious an issue it can be. So these are the two main things you look at to cover yourself in a way.
Basically, having a very good lawyer.
Basically, don't mess around with other people. Put simple contracts in place, lawyer or not. You don't need to lawyer up then.
For Vidur, getting into someone else's facility gives them access to literally everything you do. Is there potential of conflict between the production facility and the brand, specifically if the production base wants to start a similar brand in the same spirit category?
Are you finding a way to protect yourself? No, I think the way the industry is structured today, anybody can inspire anybody to create brands. I think if you have an infrastructure, yes, that will always help. If you're coming without the infrastructure, but I don't think the manufacturer having access has anything to do with anybody creating a new brand in the space. I think that exists and those opportunities exist sort of exponentially in India right now, especially because the market is growing at the size it's growing at and the space it has. So I think it's inevitable for new brands in every segment to pop up at this point. That is amazing for brands, people who want to create more brands, such as myself, or people with manufacturing that need more lines to get filled for whatever reason. But I wouldn't say at this point, just where the market is, there is any reason for conflict. I think that there is enough space, and that whether you had a manufacturing facility or not, at the rate India is going and capacities are increasing, people are going to start brands. You just, as your brand, have to get prepared for it.
Nice, diplomatic. Okay, Mrinal, how does the production facility deal with brands that leapfrog on other brands, i.e. Jinjiji being produced at Now Spirits? Is there a separate commercial arrangement for this, or is it ad hoc basis?
The way we have worked has always been, I have dealt with a person. Like I said, always, if I'm compatible with the person, if it makes sense, if it's all fine as people more than anything else, I put a contract in place for that. I am never going to have to deal with a third person. I never want to deal with a third person. I do not get into contracts with a third person. If they go ahead and subcontract or decide to do a brand for a third party, that is for them. For me, the contact will always be the first person who I have had a relationship with and obviously intend to move ahead doing business with.
Got it. We're really getting through these questions rather quickly, and there seems to be 15 minutes left. How about anyone from the floor? Do you guys have any questions to ask us, and any places you want to jump in? Okay, thank you.
We'll be done early.
We can go grab a good drink. Let's do this quick.
Yeah, we could
Head
do
to the
that.
bar.
Okay, Vidur, how difficult is it moving facilities? Having, everything set in one place and then having to move to another place. How difficult is that entire process of registration changes and so on and so forth?
I think if it's one thing that I could tell sort of budding brands is that if you're wanting to grow at the pace we are growing at, inevitably you're going to run out of space somewhere, right? Especially when people are sharing lines and sharing spaces, there will come a point where you will start needing more space. So get ready to move. and get ready to move. Like take it in your stride. Like it's not a bad thing. You just run out of space, and that's a good thing for everybody, right? Yes, you have to re-register, which you have to re-register every year. So I don't think that's something special and out of the ordinary. But again, I think the advantage where I would again say that we're not asset light. I think we are running a quasi model because the machinery we've learned, all of us have learned distilling ourselves. Um, the QC people, the people on the ground, the people managing excise have always been ours from the beginning. Moving for us was not a difficult task. It's a time-consuming task, and you want to take that time in your stride with your manufacturer early on. And one, you don't have to completely move. You can keep the space and add extra as well. So it's not just about, yes, I'm moving, but if you are going to create a brand that needs to grow at India's pace today, you need to be okay with moving, and you need to create an infrastructure that can move fast. And I think we did that, not to toot our own horn, but did that reasonably well considering the position we were in.
Did it excellent. I mean, kudos on that. That was, at least from the outside perspective, almost seamless. It was pretty seamless, actually.
Yeah, no distributor came complaining, so we used that as a bottom figure. So yeah, sorry I couldn't buy you more time, but this is my two bits.
So some additional thoughts that I had. Currently Blue Ocean Beverages operates out of one facility in South Goa. At what stage do you decide, okay, let's start something maybe in the north, maybe in the east, maybe in another state, just because state excises?
We have just done it. We have just started operations in Karnataka.
Amazing.
But I would say that comes when like we were marketing or we were producing in a third-party unit. We had hit volumes that did not make sense to keep doing this. You were actually bleeding money rather than invest in machinery and say, okay, now I can save that money and make more money by setting up a new plant. So I guess it's just a matter of getting the kind of numbers, volumes. Numbers need not be our own brands. Numbers can be any brands. If you say Now Spirits expands or Still Distilling expands or any brand that we are bottling for grows big enough to say or justify us to have another unit in another place, we would always look at new geographies rather than doing a second one in Goa. That would give us more access to those markets. So it's a matter of numbers meeting, ends meeting.
Vidur, I'm sure you guys have done research on this. What are some of the most favorable states to set up your own distillery?
I mean, there are a couple of states that offer you sort of similar, I guess, ease of working than like Goa does. Like Goa does, so we would have narrowed that down to 3 or 4 states at that time. Laws are constantly changing, so Assam and the East are one of them where they allow sort of easier application in especially the production and sales. Punjab to a point actually had some easier laws. MP recently actually, funnily enough, changed some of those laws. So at that point, at least 5 years ago, we were looking at all of these states, and I think people are attracted to Goa because I think Goa also, it's the Goan lifestyle combined with the fact that, that is a huge attraction to a lot of people. I think you can live in Goa, which is a great life to have. I think quality of life wise, it's one of the better states, and then still be able to create something that you're passionate about, which is that sort of mixed platform of why Goa. I think if you're indirectly asking me why Goa became so popular, I think personally that's what it is.
Same question for you, Mrinal.
Can you please repeat the question? I'm a little lost right now.
What are some of the more favorable states in this country where you would consider setting up a distillery?
I really wouldn't be able to answer that, or rather justify my answer. I know Goa excise, I know how it works. We have been there for a long time. We do a lot of operations in Karnataka, so yes, we have dealt with and worked with Karnataka excise. Every state has its own quirks and advantages, disadvantages. Goa is a tiny state. You're never going to have great volumes. If you're looking at just Goa, you will have to export to other states. So then there is exporting, import duties, all of that. A bigger state like Karnataka, you don't have to worry about those things. So favorable is more about what makes business sense, where there is more money to be made, where you can justify setting up a unit and get enough business is what would matter more. Excise is something that is always going to be there. It's always going to be a thorn in your side sometimes. It's going to be an advantage. It's going to be a disadvantage. You can't complain about it. It's part of your business. You're in this field. Deal with it. That's all.
Thank you.
Rakshay, if I could ask you a question about your own journey
Yes.
in this space as a asset-light brand.
Yes.
I guess on one hand, from a production perspective, it's been difficult to set up your own agave production facility.
Yes.
So just tell us a little bit more about how this all panned out.
The way I went about it was I figured, listen, I've got this great existing relationship with this gentleman who's willing to do this work with me. So let me capitalize and focus my time and energy on what to do to add value to what he could give me. So what I actually did was I did a tie-up with 2 different distilleries. One that did all my sourcing and until the raw product comes to me. And then I did another tie-up on the other side where I do all my aging, blending, filtration, and bottling. And I did that in Goa, of course, just because of the ease of business that these gentlemen have talked about. So I thought that was the right approach for me. But moving forward, I would like to have something a little bit closer towards Delhi, something maybe in Punjab, where I could save some on angel share. Angel share in Goa is considerably higher than what I would like. And from Punjab, the import-export duties into Delhi, which is a main market for me, being from Delhi, makes a lot more sense. So all I need is a rick house and a bottling line, and I'll be able to, get my product into Delhi at much, I save a lot on transportation. So it also depends on how many cases per month, blah, 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 are you doing for another tie-up to make financial sense for you. So that's how I've gone about it. And I think that sounds like a reasonable approach. There are certain drawbacks having a facility that's not your own, which, we suffered. For all you guys that don't know this, at my facility there was a big fire and I lost a lot of money and a lot of product and a lot of time. So there are some certain drawbacks, but as long as what Mrinal said is absolutely right, as long as you have a good relationship with your partners, then everything can be overcome. So luckily, it was a very bad Christmas Eve for us, but luckily moving forward, things are much better and much easier now. And also going through a major issue like that really shows the depth of character of a person. And now it's once you go through something like that together, you can pretty much go through anything together. So unfortunate that it happened, but moving forward, I think we're all in a better place. Yes, Mr. Vaz.
The question is for all 3 of you all. Is the plug and play option a better thing? And with the excise laws and government laws changing and getting more complicated, do you think that setting up a common bottling unit for everyone or just becoming bigger is easier? Or do brands set up separately?
So, at least for me, the way I see it is when I reach a certain amount of supply pull from the north, I think I would like to have a rick house set up and a contract with the distillery up there. Now, my back end, there's no chance I can change my back end supply because, you know, the fields are in a particular place and, you know, I'd need to be very close to them. These piñas weigh 150 kilos each. Just transporting those would mean that it's not financially viable for me to move that part of my tie-up to another place. So for me, it actually would be quite easier because barrels can be moved around, new barrels can be imported to different locations. So for me, that part is I would prefer having separate tie-ups at separate regions to support that local geography.
Coming to the point about plug and play works, there are advantages to it, which is you want to experiment with a new product. You are talking about a brand new category. You're talking about very small volumes. If there's a option to plug in and fit in with somebody and get it started, get it moving, start getting volumes and see where you're getting numbers from. You don't know which state is going to work, which is not, what rules are going to change in the time that you're trying to experiment with your product. So it does have that advantage that it helps to start out with. Even though we have now 2 facilities, one in Karnataka, one in Goa, we still tie up in other states and bottle with other partners. And once volume probably picks up or big enough like we did in Karnataka, we would move out and do your own. So there are both sides to it. Do you want to be always stuck on one? It's not possible. You want to be able to plug in, you want to be able to fit in, you want to also synergize with other people, give other people the platform to start it out in a way, experiment, learn from them, great new products can come in. One of the things I keep talking to people about, talking to my friends about here is innovative stuff. Now you can't do innovative stuff by setting up a unit everywhere and trying to make it profitable and make ends meet. It doesn't work. It's difficult. So there is a combination. You need to have the plug and play option. Once you have volumes in a particular state or once you feel your numbers are good enough, you move on, do your own, set it up, and then you become a plug-in point for somebody else to come in and say, we can launch products and do things.
I think to flip it on his head, like everybody's saying, there's a volume question, there's an innovation question, right? So like some of the products that we're toying around with right now, our machines have to be close to each other to execute the product. You're well aware of some products that work with that. The other way also we're sort of looking at facilities is, can we incubate products to a certain level and then give it out to other co-manufacturers that create the volume? So I do agree with Mrinal a lot. There is a volume question, there's an innovation question. And then obviously there is your fanaticism of how much quality you want to hold on to and how much you want to know with these relationships that we've been talking about that you want to sort of give away. But like I said, it's a plug-in. I don't think there's just a plug-and-play model. It works between these 3 questions for every manufacturer that's either starting out or is going to create a new variant of a brand.
Rakshay, are we done?
Any other questions,
Are we going to the
guys?
bar?
So if anyone has any follow-up questions, you can meet us at the bar. After that place, we will be heading to Sancho's tonight. So yeah, we can raise a toast there.
I'm definitely open to answering any questions at the bar, but it's better at the bar.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Rakshay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks everybody.
I hope you got some Mr. Jerry's for us, Mrinal, to make up for that lack of questions. We haven't been suitably bribed. Could I request Nazibah to come on stage and hand them the mementos, please? We've still got 32 seconds left. Thank you, everyone. That's a wrap. Good evening. There's a networking dinner on for delegates, panelists, exhibitors, and there's a Stranger and Sons hosted after party at Sanchez. Yay! See you tomorrow.